Now, I've heard a lot of good things about garden wicking beds, so I've decided to try one myself. I'm going to use mostly materials that I've got lying around, so I don't want to spend too much money on it. So the first thing you have to do is obviously choose a site. So let's just have a look around here. Now, this is our vegetable garden. It's got a few things growing in it, but we're moving from summer to winter now, so we're in between plantings. So I've got a few seedlings I need to put out, so that's why I'm looking at this wicking bed at the moment. So and this is the site I've chosen. The site's got to be more or less level, and I've just laid a bit of weed matting down to stop roots coming through and damaging my waterproof liner, and also sharp stones and that sort of thing. You can either have a sealed waterproof container that you put your wicking bed in, or you can build one yourself and line it with a waterproof plastic lining. So that's what I've decided to do. There's one side there, there's a side at the back, and there's a side there already built. So all I've got to do is put a couple of timbers across where that line is to complete the bed, and I've got those already cut over there. But before I get started, what I'd like to do is just on paper just show you what I'm about to do and the theory behind these wicking beds. First of all, you've got to have a container, and that container can either be waterproof or you can just make it out of wood or something. But if it's not waterproof, then you need to line it on the inside with some waterproof plastic material. Then the next thing you put in is your filler pipe, which is 50mm PVC pipe coming down, and it connects onto a 50mm corrugated irrigation pipe, which has got little slits in it and allows water to flow out all the way along. And the reason for that is just so that you get an even flow in of water when you're filling the wicking bed. Then above that you have a gravel layer. The reason you have a gravel layer is to keep spaces open for water to flow in. And between the gravel layer and the soil you have what we call a geo-fabric, which is a porous material. It's synthetic, doesn't rot, and it also has a capillary action of its own, and that separates the soil from the water, so the soil can't go in amongst the gravel particles and occupy the space that's supposed to be there for water. Then just under your geo-fabric is your overflow pipe, so that when you filled it with water to that point, it starts overflowing and you know that you're up to that level. Then above that, obviously, the soil. And the theory is that the soil has a capillary action of its own, and it can pull the water up towards the roots of the plants. Now, when you first plant little seedlings, you'll need to water them from the top because the roots will be very short and they may not reach the water. So you have to just give them a week or two of watering from the top, let the roots grow down and find the water. Now, this diagram's not to scale. Normally you'd have about 20 millimeters of gravel and then about 30-35 millimeters of soil. You don't want to have too much soil because the soil can only pull the water so far and then it runs out of capillary action. And especially sand can't pull water very high, so you don't want to have your soil layer too deep, otherwise you might hit problems with the capillary action not being strong enough. And then what I'm going to do with mine is I'm going to have a 100mm PVC pipe with some holes drilled in it that I'll chuck my vegetable peelings from the kitchen in, and that'll be a worm feeder for earthworms, which do a really good job of aerating the soil and keeping it healthy and keeping it nutritious for the plants. What worries me is when the water level drops a little way and there's no water in contact with your geo-fabric layer there. It worries me that that might dry out a little bit. So what I'm going to do with mine, and I've tried to depict it here, underneath the gravel I'll put another layer of geo-fabric which will come up like that and just curve over the top of these, just under the geo-fabric layer that's already there. And that, I'm hoping, will suck up the water from the bottom and bring it to the top, because the geo-fabric's got its own capillary action, and keep the top layer of geofabric in contact with some moisture. Right, so let's get started. I'll put the fourth wall in place. So there we go, that's the fourth wall of the wicking bed in place. Now if you look down here, you'll see there's a hole there, and that's going to be my drainage hole for the gravel at the bottom of the bed. Right, we're ready to assemble the wicking bed now. And there's my waterproof layers. As I said, I'm just using materials largely that I've got on hand, and what I've got here is a double layer. One layer is this thick builder's polythene sheeting, and then another layer which is some pond liner that I've got left over, and I've made a hole already for my overflow outlet, so that gives me a good starting point. Right, for my outlet I've just got a normal tank outlet. This end is fused on, so there's no leaking going on there, and we put a rubber seal there, then it goes through the waterproofing there, and on the other side we'll screw that one on. They both got rubbers. I'll also use some silicone to seal it, and I'm going to start by getting that into place so that when I'm trying to insert my waterproofing, I know I've got it all lined up correctly. Right, there's my waterproof layer in place, and that's the outlet there. Now my next layer is going to be just a layer of this geo-fabric to go under the stones, and to act as a bit of a wick, so that if my water level drops from the top of the stones down, this will be underneath the stones, pick up a bit of water with capillary action and bring it over onto the top, and then be in contact with the other geofabric, which will be the one that separates the soil from my gravel layer. So let's do that. Right, that was my inlet pipe, a 50mm pipe, which runs down with an elbow, 90-degree elbow at the bottom, and then that joins neatly onto some of this PVC drainage pipe, which is corrugated and flexible. If you look closely, you'll see there's slits in the pipe that allows the water to seep out. So it's just a way of getting the water to flow evenly under the gravel and fill up my water level to the right level. When it gets to my overflow, it'll just flow out there automatically. So that's where I put the water in. So now the next layer is going to be some gravel, which is going to keep my space for my water open, and then on top of that I'll put some more of this geofabric to stop the soil which comes on top from seeping in between my gravel stones. Right, then when you've got the stones in, you've got to make them more or less level so that they're all at about the same height as your overflow. Right, that's more or less level with my overflow over there, and across to the other side. So now our next job is to put the geofabric down, and then the soil will go on top of that. Right, first I'll just flap my geofabric, the under layer. It's going to help to keep things moist, and then I'll put another layer on top. I'm not going to really bother with cutting out the exact shape. I'm just going to fold it over, but it's not a bad thing to just let it go up the side a little way. Doesn't matter that I've got double layer in some places and single layer in other places. That's all fine. It does act as a bit of a wick as well, so the thicker it is, the more water it's going to transport. Right, we're ready for the soil layer now. And then with my soil, I'm going to put ordinary soil in the bottom, and then as I get near the top, I'm going to use a bit more expensive stuff. I've got this activated soil which has got a bit of nutrients in it, and it's wettable and it's really good stuff, so my top layer will be made with that. In between I'll probably mix in a bit of potting mix which will add a bit of organic matter, and then also along those lines Aussies have got some quite exotic names for this stuff. This is a mixture of cow and chicken manure, so I'll put a bit of that in, mixing it with the soil as well. Right, now before I complete filling it with soil, I've just got to put my worm feeder in place, so we'll just line that up. There we go, all set up now. Right, now I can carry on filling up with my ordinary soil. Right, next I'm going to put a little bit of manure in. Just sprinkle it over the top like that. A bit of good quality potting soil now, just to give us a bit of organic matter, and mix it up a bit. Right, now I'm going to add my top quality soil on the top. Right, that looks pretty good. I've just got to do a bit of watering first. Just get it nice and wet on the surface. And when you plant little seedlings, it's always a good thing to water from the top for a bit until those roots have had a chance to go down and find your layer of moist soil through the wicking or capillary action of this bed. Always good to put a good load of water in your worm feeder. Worms love water, so that's enough for there. Now I'm going to just put some, fill my gravel layer. Right, I've got water flowing in there, so we hope it's going to come out in the overflow in a moment. We also hope there's no leaks along the bottom there. If we see water coming out of there, we've got a disaster, I'm afraid, because that means our waterproof layer is not waterproof. There it starts, so that's good. Overflow's working. Right, there's my first plantings. Right in the front here, I've planted some radishes up to about here. Then I've got a few leeks in the front here. Then the next row is beetroot, all along there. Then it's cauliflower and broccoli, and then right at the back I've got a space for some snow peas which I've already planted but haven't come up yet, and they'll climb up that trellis there, so that's quite a good use of space. And then I'm going to put some green mulch on so that the worms have got something to chew on right from the beginning. So right, a bit of green mulch. Made this green mulch from spinach leaves, which we've got so much of at the moment, so it's no great loss. And then I'll chuck some in the worm feeder as well, so the worms have got something to start on. Now if you found this useful, please like and share this video, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. And if you have any comments or questions, we'd love to hear from you. Just scroll right down to the bottom and you'll find the comment section there. Thank you very much for watching.